Hey y'all, it's your girl Tashondarenae, and I'm back with another video. In today's video, I'm sharing a delicious recipe for my bread pudding. So if you would like to see how I do it, please stay tuned. All right, the first thing you're gonna need is a loaf of bread. I'm using a brioche loaf. If you don't have a brioche loaf, that is fine. You can use whatever type of bread you have, that being hamburger buns, hot dog buns, a loaf of white bread. Whatever bread you have will work for this recipe. So the first thing you're going to do is cube your bread. I'm just going to cut it into these small cubes, and I am using the entire loaf. Now, if you wanted to go a little quicker, you can just kind of rip the bread apart with your hands. Just make sure you're breaking it down into small, bite-sized pieces. Then you'll add your bread into your baking dish. I'm using an 11 by 7 casserole. This loaf is a little smaller than a typical loaf of bread. The slices are thicker and the loaf is smaller. So if you're using a larger loaf, you may need to adjust the size of your casserole dish. This next step is optional, but I do highly recommend it. I'm going to be adding about a half cup to a cup of golden raisins. If you like raisins, I definitely would recommend adding them because they do add an awesome flavor to your bread pudding. And once you have the raisins in the dish, you do want to take a spoon or a spatula and just kind of move them around in the pan. You don't want them to just sit on the top. You want them to be throughout the bread pudding. Once you do that, you want to set the casserole dish aside so that you can start on your custard for the bread pudding. So to a mixing bowl, you're going to add 3 large eggs. To make it easy, you want to go ahead and whisk those before adding any other ingredients. Next, you're going to add 2.5 cups of milk and 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. Then 1 stick of melted butter, about 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. If you don't have pumpkin pie spice, you can use a teaspoon of cinnamon and about a half teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Then lastly, you're going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar and 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. Then you're going to whisk all of these ingredients together until it's well combined. Then optionally, I added more of the golden raisins to the top of my bread because I just love the way the golden raisins taste in the bread pudding, as well as I sprinkled more pumpkin pie spice on top. You don't have to do that. That step is totally optional. So after you whisk the custard together, what you want to do is pour it directly on top of the bread in the casserole dish. And then you're going to allow the custard to completely soak into the bread for about 20 minutes before you put it into your oven. So what you want to do is push the bread down into the custard. You want to be sure that every single bread cube is getting soaked and saturated with that custard, or else you'll have a dry bread pudding. Now, you will notice that your cubes are not staying as cubes. They should be mushing up and forming into kind of like one solid piece, and that is exactly what you're looking for. If the bread cubes are staying whole, then you're going to have a dry bread pudding as well. So again, you're going to set that aside and allow it to soak for about 20 minutes. And this is what it's going to look like after it's completely soaked. And you're going to add that to your preheated oven at 350 degrees. You're going to bake that until it is done. Now, it could take your bread pudding an hour, or it may even be an hour and 30 minutes before it's done. It's really going to depend on the type of bread you use and your oven. While the bread pudding is baking, I'm going to go ahead and make a vanilla sauce to top the bread pudding. For this sauce, you're going to start out with 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar. You're going to whisk that all together and then add 1 large egg. This vanilla sauce can either be done on the stovetop or in the microwave. I'm putting mine in the microwave, and if you do so, just make sure you're using a microwave safe dish. You're going to microwave it for a total of 3 minutes, and this is what it looks like once it comes out of the microwave. It has grown in volume and become really thick. So you're going to whisk it for a few seconds until you get a smooth consistency like this. Then you're going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla extract, as well as a 1.5 tablespoons of butter. Whisk that together until it's smooth and the butter has completely melted. Then you'll add a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. You'll whisk that together until it's well combined. And then your vanilla sauce is done. Now, you can add some cinnamon or nutmeg to this if you would like, but I don't think it's necessary. But definitely do that if you prefer it that way. Once your bread pudding is done and out of the oven, you want to allow it to set up for about 10 to 15 minutes before serving it. It's going to be really hard to cut and scoop out while it's piping hot. So it is best to just let it cool down slightly. But here it is. You can either pour your vanilla sauce on top of the entire bread pudding, or you can just allow people to pour it onto their individual serving. That's the way I like to do it. I really hope you all will give this recipe a try. It is absolutely delicious. It's the perfect bread pudding. It's not too sweet, but it is sweet. So you can either have it for breakfast or you can have it as a dessert. I've always had it as a dessert because it is sweet. If you're interested in the list of ingredients that I've used to make this bread pudding, as always, they'll be listed down in the description box. If you have not already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you be a part of my YouTube family. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.